day was 29th November 2025, and the fields beneath the Santon hill once again echoed with musket fire, galloping hooves, and the disciplined cadence of Napoleonic drill. The annual Austerlitz Reenactment, one of Europe's premier living history events, returned on a scale unmatched in recent memory. For viewers familiar with our earlier Battle of Austerlitz, 220th anniversary special animated documentary, we've been fortunate to cover the same history brought to life. This time, not just through animation and Napoleon Total War footage, but through thousands of reenactors standing on the very ground where the Battle of the Three Emperors unfolded. The 2025 commemorative event surpassed all expectations. More than 1,800 participants arrived from over 20 countries, with nearly 100 horses and 16 full-sized cannons taking part. The battlefield below the Santon had been significantly enlarged to an impressive 250 by 400 meters, allowing for a more authentic tactical representation of early 19th century maneuver warfare. Behind this colossal undertaking stood a coalition of organizers, the Central European Napoleonic Society and the following dignified parties. Together, they continued the long-standing mission of the Austerlitz Project, now in its 35th year since Miroslav Jandora, president of the Austerlitz Project, first established commemorations at Slavkov. The scenario for the 2025 reenactment drew inspiration from one of the most dramatic clashes of the Battle of Austerlitz, the struggle at Staré Vinohrady. Historically, Van Damme's French infantry smashed through General Miloradovich's Russian division, then pressed on to break Rotermund's Austrians. What followed was the collision of elite formations, Napoleon's Guard and the Imperial Guard of Tsar Alexander, before the Russians ultimately withdrew toward Ksenovice and Hodonin. It was the very moment immortalized in François Gérard's 1810 masterpiece, La Bataille d'Austerlitz, 2nd of December 1805, a painting the reenactors sought to recreate at the climax of the event. On the day of the reenactment, 732 reenactors took up arms in the ranks of the Austro-Russian coalition. The infantry was formed from 1 Russian and 3 Austrian battalions, while the cavalry brought together Austrian cuirassiers, Uhlans, and Russian Cossacks. Supported by artillery, these combined Russo-Austrian forces operated under the capable command of their commander-in-chief, André Toupy. Opposing them stood the French army. At its forefront was the chivalrous French cavalry, led by the flamboyant Murat, portrayed by Frankie Simon. The French infantry comprised 4 line battalions and a guard battalion, all supported by artillery and placed under the overall command of the French commander-in-chief, Tomasz Doležal. Presiding over the French ranks was the magnificent figure of the Emperor himself, portrayed by the much-respected Mark Schneider, whose presence lifted morale and inspired confidence among both troops and commanders alike. With 1,097 reenactors on the French side and 732 representing the Austro-Russian coalition, the reenactment brought together a total of 1,829 troops on the field. For ease of understanding, I've prepared this animation to provide a clear, bird's-eye view of the events as they unfolded during the reenactment. This would not have been possible without the extensive support I received from Aneta Matusiewicz, Captain Jakub Samek of the 1st French Infantry Battalion, and Dagmar Zivničková, who portrayed a Vivandia during the reenactment. There are on-screen timestamps to guide viewers through the reenactment phases. 1400, the French began their advance in two lines. Coalition columns deployed into battle formation. Soon, musketry crackled across the entire front. In the cavalry sector, French and coalition horsemen clashed in swirling melees of sabers, pistols, and trumpet calls.
Zde před hlavní tribunou proti kozákům vyráží především polský druhý hulánský pluk.
By 1415, the first coalition line, Miloradovich's division, buckled under French pressure and retreated.
Takto vlastně těžká pěchota rozhodovala, kolísala a Rusové se dávají na ústup směrem k Rakušanům, kteří ve druhé linii tvoří vlastně obranou bariéru proti tomu, aby se ruská linie zcela rozpadla. Ale to nic neví na to.
The French pressed forward without pause, slamming into Rotemund's Austrians. Cavalry engagements intensified on the flank. At 1430, Rotemund's line broke. 2 battalions and a portion of the artillery retreated toward the southeastern tip of the field. The remaining coalition troops continued firing before the cavalry battle subsided. The French then pulled back behind their lines as coalition cavalry massed to strike the French left. 3 French battalions hastily formed squares, Napoleon's trusted defensive answer to cavalry. As the last square locked bayonets, the coalition horse charged and shattered the front square. French soldiers fled northwest, closely pursued by enemy cavalry, while the remaining squares fired steadily. French cavalry regrouped and launched a counter-charge, driving the coalition horsemen back toward the southeastern corner. By 1445, the French cavalry formed to attack the Russian Guard infantry, 1 Russian and 1 Austrian battalion, now standing defiantly in square. At 1450, French cavalry charged the square before the tribune, but were repelled. French infantry advanced to continue the assault.
A my vidíme, že Francouzi zatlačili jsou poraženi.
de nous les derniers assauts de la bataille et les Français chargent en la baïonnette pour réduire les derniers bastions des armées coalisées. Il s'agit...
Meanwhile, another French battalion advanced into the former cavalry sector, reigniting combat reminiscent of Lens versus Bagration.
Proti Rusům ti ještě se snaží kontrolovat, ale v tuto chvíli už je jasné, že Francouzi opanovali bojiště a spojenci jsou poraženi.
Nous avons en face de nous les derniers assauts de la bataille et les Français chargent en la baïonnette pour réduire les derniers assauts de la bataille et les Français chargent en la baïonnette pour réduire les derniers bastions des armées coalisées. Il s'agit vraiment des derniers instants de la bataille.
V britských jednotkách, kdy ten tvar se úplně rozpadá, místo sevřené linie už je to jenom zhluk vojáků, kteří se snaží sečt nohou dostat z bojiště. A francouzská armáda slaví svůj triumf.
By 1500 hours, the remaining Russian and Austrian contingents withdrew either off the battlefield or to the southeastern corner, where isolated fighting persisted. Then, at 1505, Napoleon rode onto the field with his staff, portrayed for the final time by Schneider. Before the grandstand, reenactors assembled to recreate Gérard's iconic painting, bringing art and history into living alignment. At 1515, the armies formed one last time for the closing parade. Decorations, promotions, and formal acknowledgements concluded the event, marking the end of an era. Austerlitz 2025 held special significance. It marked the final appearance of Schneider in the role of Napoleon. His first European performances dated back to 2005, during the commemorations of Waterloo and the bicentenary of Austerlitz. For 2 decades, he brought extraordinary discipline, dignity, and understanding to the imperial role, becoming a fixture at major reenactments across the continent. He stepped down voluntarily, still able to portray Napoleon with strength and credibility, never as caricature. His farewell at Austerlitz closed a remarkable chapter in reenactment history. The 2025 Austerlitz reenactment stood as a tribute not only to the battle itself, but to the international community that preserved its memory. With expanded fields, unprecedented participation, and a living recreation of Gérard's masterpiece, the event honored 35 years of dedication from the Austerlitz Project and its founder, Miroslav Jandora. And for viewers of Lionsberg cinematic history, this documentary now stands alongside our earlier Austerlitz animated documentary, continuing our commitment to bringing Napoleonic history to life through animation, reenactment, and every medium that can keep the past speaking clearly to the present. Huge appreciation to Aneta Matusiewicz and Weekend Traveler for sharing their outstanding videos of the event. Make sure you check out their individual YouTube accounts to get a glimpse of their perspective of the reenactment and much more. This video also features the excellent participation of the Polish-Italian Legia reenactors from Poland, Połaniec, Nysa, and Kędzierzyn-Koźle. Special thanks goes to Sabrina, Lopez, Leonard, Petr Riedl FOTO, Michaela Wecker, and Batteurs du 57 Regiment for allowing me to use their extraordinary photographs. Links to their individual photo collections across various social media handles are given in the descriptions. I have no claims to any of the videos, nor the photos used here except for the animation, which is made by me. This reenactment documentary is made purely out of passion. In case of any unintentional mistakes, I beg for mercy. If you have enjoyed the documentary, make sure to like it and leave a comment. See you on our next video. Thank you.